This looks like Jake Paul in 20 years. BioWare calls out the cruelty of fans celebrating layoffs. You are crossing a line, and you're probably attacking the wrong person anyway. Uh-oh. So we're getting called out by the gaming industry. Uh-oh, here it is. Here it is. Let's take a look at it. You don't know the circumstances that resulted in the thing that you're mad at. Mark Dara is a true BioWare veteran, returning to his consultancy before returning in a consultancy role to shepherd Dragon Age the Veilguard over the finish line. So let me get this straight. This guy is the person who's telling us that we're wrong for thinking that it's good that shitty studios are getting shut down, while he recently was a consultant for Dragon Age the Veilguard that they had to, because keep in mind, in an investor's earning call, you legally have to tell the truth. They had to say the game really sucked a big dick, right? And it sucked a mega dick, not a big dick, a mega dick. Okay, he's wearing an Anthem t-shirt. You know what? You know what, guys? Hey, I'm not so bad, huh? How about that? You know, oh yeah, I liked Avowed more than a lot of other people did. Oh, you know, but this is outrageous. Like, I look like a fucking wizard. I look like a patrician fucking, like, historian of video games compared to this. This is crazy. The shirt's cool. It is a cool shirt, but it's the wrong shirt. Okay, yeah, this is nuts. During his latest video, however, the subject, a more toxic element. Where is it here? Dara's latest video. Where's his video? Where's his fucking video? The video is called $70 Doesn't Buy You Cruelty. Okay, let's see if we can find this. Stop harassing developers. Where's he saying it? This should be obvious.
Did you read the title? Did it say something like, your $70 doesn't buy you cruelty? Well, that's what we're going to talk about today. The fact that you bought a game that you didn't like doesn't give you the right to be cruel or unkind to the people that developed that game. Now, I'm going to be clear about something. I'm not saying that you have to like the thing you bought. I'm not saying even that you aren't allowed to complain about the thing you bought. You can have whatever opinion that you feel like.
Apparently not.
A game. Even if that opinion is stupid and wrong, you are entitled
Apparently
to that opinion.
not.
And to some degree, you're entitled to express that opinion to the corporation, to the video game studio that created this game that you bought.
But
you paid 70 of your own dollars for this game, and it disappointed you.
Yeah.
And you're angry about that. That is fine. You are entitled to be angry about it.
Thank you.
And you're entitled to express that anger in...
Well, I'm glad he agrees. Yeah, I totally agree with him. Absolutely. Yeah, said abuse from players. So in Dara's latest video, here's another subject. The more toxic elements of video game fandom, which are much more of an issue of developers than players might think. In a 2023 GDC survey of game developers, 91% of respondents said abuse from players was a problem. And if we're being honest, we've seen people go way over the top at developers online. Well, here's the thing, though. And this is, dude, Mark Curran is right about this. Tell that to the devs who are posting anti-white hatred, attacks on gamers, and death threats to MAGA. That's the problem. Is it takes two to tango here. Is you have these developers that are constantly demonizing video players, and these people don't get fired. They post extremist political opinions fucking constantly. And they demonize the players, they talk down to the players, they're patronizing, and then you're surprised that the players say, hey, you know what, we don't like this? Is this a fucking joke? What do you mean? They can't handle the truth. Yes, I know, it's nuts. How is this even possible? So PC Gamer, $70 doesn't buy you cruelty. Makes it clear he's not talking about folks criticizing a game they paid for it. Dara's issue is about fans having the right to target random developers who work at the studio at a given title, even when you don't know the circumstances that resulted in the thing that you're getting mad at. I'm sure that to some degree this is true, but when you see a developer or somebody that works at a company post something that's fucking racist, and then you say, hey, this guy's a piece of shit, is this really what the problem is? Is this really a problem? What are we talking about here? You cross the line when you start being cruel about it. You don't need to go out of your way to cause harm to other people because of a video game. Obviously, nobody's... No, what do you mean? Who's supporting this? Nobody's supporting causing... harming somebody. This isn't it. Yeah, all these guys aren't allowed to have your own opinions. It's like these things don't like. It's specifically to point out that you're being angry at a specific person, you're attacking a specific person is often misdirected. So, yes, in some cases, this is true. But what about the cases where it's somebody who works at a company? See, this is where I'm at, okay? And this is me being logical. So, if I think about this, and I think to myself, oh, okay. So, what the problem is here is that the people that are working at the company might not all deserve the same treatment that this person does. Here's what the problem is. It's that that person doesn't get fired. That person doesn't get fired. There's nothing that happens about it at all. That's it. That's the issue. It's the director. Yeah, it's the director making personal statements like this. Yeah, it's insane. Why should we as consumers care about their circumstances?
Certain channels.
Yeah.
If you are mad at that Ubisoft game, be mad at Ubisoft. Express your anger to Ubisoft or to the studio that made the game.
Yeah.
But you cross a line when you start being cruel about it.
What does this mean?
So why am I saying you don't get to be cruel because you spent $70? Let's walk through it. One, you shouldn't be cruel at all. What are you doing? It's a video game. You don't need to go out of your way to cause harm to other people because of a video game that you don't like.
I don't like this word harm because it's like you're talking about harm like these are internet comments. I don't think anybody's supporting actual violence or threats. Nobody's really supporting this. Somebody thinks this. There are some people that think this. They're crazy.
I'm not saying you're not allowed to be angry about it. I'm not saying you don't get to express your dissatisfaction with the content of the game that you're not enjoying. But when you climb into someone's personal social media and start actively attacking that person.
Well, what happens if that person's saying something you don't like? Are you not allowed to criticize people for saying things on social media and public spaces that you disagree with? What is this?
You celebrate layoffs at a studio because the game that you don't like didn't do that well.
That's good. That's good because that means that there's not going to be more games like that, and it sets an example for the industry that these types of games are bad. Why would that be a bad thing? That's a good thing. That's like, yes, you want to have situations where products that you don't like fail because it shows the market that other people don't want it. And that's not even a personal attack. It's not being cruel. That's saying, hey, your product, I didn't like your product. And big surprise, you know, I'm glad that it's not working out for you. We're at 2:11. Give me a minute. I'm going to get it over to here.
Line into being cruel, and fundamentally you should have more grace for other human beings.
Well, tell that to them.
But if you're not buying that, let's go on to...
And also, it's not grace. I mean, if somebody makes a shitty product and they get fired, that's not, like, this isn't graceful. Like, what is this?
Point two.
Yeah.
You don't know what caused the results that you don't like.
Who cares? Who cares? Like,
go through an example. Let's say that you don't like the line delivery on a piece of dialogue. Is that the fault of the voice actor? It might be, but it could be a lot of other things too. It might be the fault of the person who was directing that voice actor. Maybe they were given very specific instructions to deliver the line in this particular way.
He brings up a good point in this circumstance, and I think that this is accurate. That there are some cases where voice actors do something because they were told to do it in a certain way. This point that he's bringing up is accurate. I agree with him in this.
Maybe the writer who wrote that line wanted it delivered in this particular way, and the stage direction specified this particular line delivery. Maybe the recording equipment at the voice studio went down, and the only take they managed to get was this first one that was done just to set the tone, and they were just kind of...
There is no other industry that when something goes wrong with a product, the people that work in the industry constantly try to make these emotional appeals in order to get people to accept a subpar experience. This doesn't happen in movies. It doesn't happen in restaurants. It doesn't happen in an airplane. It's like this never happens anywhere. Like, why is this unique with video games? Yeah, it only happens with video. This is outrageous.
Out of time and stuck with it. So if you go and you start attacking the voice actor for a line delivery you don't like, it might not be them at all. It might be...
He's right about this. This is true. But I think that, and I think that he's right. So let me go ahead and make let's specify this a little bit more. So when you don't like something in a video game, it's very hard to pinpoint who the person is that is responsible for the thing that you don't like in the video game. Sometimes it's hard to know who exactly it is. And this has been an opinion that I've had for a long time. And I think an example of me expressing this opinion in the past is with Steve Denuser and World of Warcraft. I said that this guy was getting scapegoated a bit too much because he was probably one person that was on the writing team, and the entire writing team are the ones that are at fault, and he's just the one that's speaking for them. So I've actually had this opinion before in the past. But the difference is that when an individual developer is making public statements and they're saying and demonizing groups of people based off of their public statements that are in some cases racist, they are politically motivated or problematic in one way or another, that person receiving feedback and criticism from that person, from the audience, that person receiving feedback is completely fair because they're the ones that are saying it. It's not like the studio is telling them to say that they hate white people. They didn't say that. They decided to do that themselves.
Something else. Indeed, it might not be the line delivery at all. Maybe the problem was the writing. So should you go attack the writer? Well, no, because why was the line written in this way? Was it written this way because the writer...
I think that this guy is actually illustrating a really great point of the reason why people should celebrate a lot of these layoffs, is that every bit of accountability and fault inside of an organization is displaced and diluted down to a point where you don't even know who's actually at fault, who's doing anything wrong. It's nobody's... Everything goes wrong, and no one's to blame. And this is it's basically like an engineered form of bureaucracy that insulates people from any form of accountability at all. And I think that's where he's at. And I think that he's unknowingly making an argument for why the video game industry is as bloated as it is. How is it not one or two people's fault that one of these things goes wrong?
Had a specific thing they were trying to say? Maybe. Maybe it was written this way because there was incredibly tight time pressures due to other externalities.
All this is obvious. Let's move on.
And all of this isn't to say that you aren't allowed to have your own opinions, to not like the things you don't like. It's specifically to point out that you being angry at a specific person, you attacking a specific person, is often misdirected. If you...
True in some cases, not in all cases. There are a lot of the people who get celebrated, and also, like, when you're a game director. So this is the thing, is that if you're a game director and you're a person who is responsible for the leadership of the game, you are getting paid a lot of money. And with that money comes responsibility. Now, it might not always be your fault when something in the game doesn't go well, but it is your responsibility. That's what leadership is. So when a person like this, like, that's how it is. That's the way it goes. So yes, it is when the game doesn't go well, it's the director's fault. It is. Now, there could be some behind the scenes reason why it's not entirely his fault, but if you want to look at somebody, you need to look at, eventually the buck has to stop somewhere up the line. It does. Come on, this doesn't happen in Chinese studios. If someone makes a mistake, then if they find out who it is and they demand a public apology, even dismissal or free work for 3 months. Well, the difference is that a lot of individual developers that receive a lot of negative feedback and negative criticism from players are developers who constantly assert their own political opinions, and then they try to basically insert those political opinions into their media. So like with Avowed, for example, like it was one specific person talking about putting things into the video game that were disagreeable by a large percentage of people. That's a totally different thing. Trump is live? No, it's not live. It's not live. If it was live, I'd be watching it. It's not live. A guy in Indiana got arrested today for posting death threats to Elon on X. Really? I'd have to find a link to that.
You feel like you're just not getting the satisfaction from yelling at the corporate Twitter channel or yelling at the studio directly. I would say again that you shouldn't be targeting people directly, even the executive producer. But you know what? If you feel the need, the higher up in the organization you go, the more I'm going to say have at her. As you get beyond the executive producer and you get up into studio leadership and group leadership and the C-suite and the person in charge of the entire
They're the ones who are accountable.
They share responsibility in the game you don't like being the way that it is.
Yes.
So if you feel the need to yell at them, again, probably don't, but they're big boys and girls.
Why is everybody hung up on Avowed? I think the reason why people are hung up on it is very simple. So this is a big issue that I think a lot of people have. People are very fatigued from video games that are being pushed out by people who express opinions that are disgraceful, problematic, disagreeable, or unlikable. And they feel like there is a small subset, and I'm one of these people. I feel like there is a small subset of the game development culture that is actively pushing an agenda inside of video games that is reductive, that is annoying, and that I don't think is receptive or respectful of average players. I think these are basically activists that are putting... They're trying to take over media spaces, and they're doing the same thing in television and movies too. They're trying to take over media spaces and use these media spaces as a canvas for them to paint their picture of how the world should be. And I notice this. I think a lot of people notice this, and I think people are tired of it. So the reason why Avowed is something that people are talking about a lot is simply because it's one of the cases of that happening, and a person who is overtly stating what their viewpoint is, and it's exhausting. That, yeah, it's so obnoxious, and I think that's the real reason why people are mad. The guy's missing the point. No one justifies attacking voice actors. We want directors to get fired, and they rarely are. We don't celebrate people losing their jobs. We're celebrating companies taking L's. Yeah, in some cases, that's true.
So they should be able to handle it. Well, the reality is, most of those people do not have a social media presence, do not have a way that you can yell at them directly. So a lot of times what I'm telling you is the least senior person you're allowed to yell at is the executive producer. And a lot of times the most senior person you're going to be able to yell at is the executive producer. So once again, the executive producer serves as a lightning rod for all this vitriol. If you feel like you're not being listened to when you complain on Metacritic or you complain on the forums of a studio, or you complain into the social media channels of the publisher or the studio, be aware that this stuff is carefully scrutinized. not just by the social media teams, also by the teams themselves. Arguably, in a lot of cases, to too great of a degree. The team is listening, I would say, often too much to what you are yelling about and complaining about.
Then why aren't they changing it? Then why do they keep adding in things that are weird, and why do they keep enforcing social political issues that are divisive into the games? Why do they keep doing it then? Like, that's it. It's not their decision. That's fine.
In these channels. But don't worry, you don't need to go onto their Twitter channel and yell at them directly, because they're going to hear it anyway. Be a human being, have some empathy, and stop being cruel. Stop throwing a party because a bunch of people lost their jobs. Because you don't know the circumstances that resulted in the thing that you're mad at. People deserve some grace. People deserve some empathy from you. And if you can't provide that, then stay off the internet completely. One last time for the cheap seats, you are entitled to your opinion. You are entitled to be angry about a game that you bought.
Yeah, sure.
You paid good money for it. But try to remember that it's just a game. Even more importantly, when you are expressing your complaints, stay away from cruelty. Stay away from targeting individual people. Stay away from trying to cause harm. Stay away from celebrating harm done to actual human beings.
I think this is all bullshit. I do. I think it's all bullshit. It absolutely is. Being cruel or whatever. The fact is that if you're going to push an agenda in a video game and people don't like the agenda, they don't like the video game. And this is even true, by the way. This is true with, I would say, most topics and most things. We're the fucking customer. Yeah, exactly. And I feel like this is just how it's going to be with anything. If you're releasing a video game and you saw the guy sexual harassment someone on Twitch, LSF? No, I didn't see that. I have no idea. Like, I mean, if somebody's sexually harassing somebody else, then they should get banned. It's pretty simple, right? I mean, what are we even talking about? It's not really, there's not really much of a conversation about that. Anyway, so the devs shouldn't go for the woke studios. Well, it's if you're pushing a narrative like this and you have people that are pushing opinions like this that people don't like, then you should expect to have people celebrate when those opinions get deleted. And also, these developers, in a lot of cases, make it personal. They're the ones that are making it personal, not oftentimes the players. And I think that players feel like they're being preached to and they're being talked down to in a lot of cases, and they feel like certain types of game design, like, for example, like the body type 1 and 2 thing, why should a player be okay with that and not celebrate this going away if they don't like it? Because if you don't like something, wouldn't it be a good thing that the thing that you don't like is taking an L? I would say so, yeah. And I think everybody knows that there's obviously going to be like collateral damage where it doesn't always like affect any one person or whatever. But that's it. Pokelaws went after you again, it seems, at LSF. Well, I'm glad he did. That's great. Maybe that'll get more viewers to his channel, and he won't have to keep acting weird. I mean, I honestly, here's really the truth, right? I've said a bunch of stuff about Poke. I don't like what is it? Yeah, I don't give a shit. LSF, the GCJ clone. Well, I think that really this is the reality, is that a lot of people are going to be, and this is the way that streaming is, and it's always been like this, is that people have. But anyway, well, actually, let me just wrap this up. I'm getting distracted. Let's not do that. One shouldn't personally attack producers for anything. I think that you're right. I think it's absolutely fair to say that it's not okay to randomly attack random people that work at a company just because they're working on a product that you don't like. I completely agree with that, and I don't think anybody is saying that's not true. But there are a lot of instances where individuals that work at these companies are making public statements about stuff, and then when they get pushback for those public statements, guess what? They're going to have people that don't like them. That's normal. And to say that people can't celebrate a person who they don't like taking an L, I think that's normal. Yeah, that's it. And what's this here? Elon suggests to send Americans $5,000 each. Yeah, I don't think that's going to happen, man. As I said, I think there's a higher chance that we're going to get a unicorn. You can't take negative reactions in the industry and learn from it. You weren't meant to be in it. Yeah, exactly. And so PoE 2 is releasing in about a month. Holy shit. Yeah, anyway, so no, like, the thing is that CatDany's becoming Bridget series. I have no idea what that is at all. But, yeah, anyway, people love to cry and they love to complain. I'll link you guys the video. I mean, like, there's like, part of what he's saying is true, but I think that it's also, you're obviously going to have people that are going to be happy that a game is not doing well, right? Like, they are. They're going to be very happy about it.